simple enough question, right? Personally, I've always had a love-hate relationship with this question because I've lived in all the green places on this map and been to all the yellow. I'm 28 years old and I've never lived more than 3 consecutive years any place in my life. I speak 4 languages, and I'm not saying this to brag, but just to ask you to consider what your perception of the world would be like and the people living in it had you had this type of upbringing. In college, I was enrolled as an international student, although I'm a US citizen, and hung out with a lot of Spanish speakers. So much so that everyone thought my last name, Ames, was Ames, while my friends called me La Rusa, which means the Russian. When you grow up in a world where your best friends aren't from the same country, speak the same language, or anywhere near you, you begin to develop relationships on a level that really traverses all of that from a human connection. Throughout college, I had this angst inside of me because I had seen all of these beautiful places, but I had also seen so much injustice. And I really wanted to do something about it, but I didn't know what or how or where to begin. And so I ended up deferring my job offer and went over to Tanzania as a volunteer. And while I was in Tanzania, I met a woman named Alice, who at the time was about 29 years old, caring for families in her community who had HIV and AIDS. And Alice realized that once these families were diagnosed, they weren't able to take their kids to school or to feed them. And so she started a school at her house. And by the time that I got there, there were 30 kids showing up each day from ages 3 to 7. And there was no food, there was no water, there was no nothing. And Alice told me that this was going to be the best school in Tanzania. And Alice and I couldn't have come from too different of backgrounds. But to this day, she calls me mdogo wangu, which means my young sister. Because we fundamentally believe in the same thing. That every person in life deserves a chance, deserves to be treated with dignity, and deserves to be loved. And by the time that I left Tanzania, Alice's vision was already becoming a full-blown reality. And I returned home to the US and started my job with GE, and also started a nonprofit to fund her vision. And for 4.5 years, I did both for full-time. But splitting my life between these 2 opposite worlds was excruciating. I felt like part of my heart was left in a world far away, while the part that I was left with was completely unfulfilled. I had all the material things that I could have wanted, but I felt no real happiness in my life. Like every 3 months pretty much, I decided that I was going to quit my job and move to Tanzania. And although that liberated me, it also terrified me. Because I had grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and I was afraid what people would think about me. I was debilitated with fear, especially fear of the unknown. And I remember waking up one morning and hearing a voice that said, "You don't have to move to Tanzania to be happy. You have to learn how to live your life here like you did over there." And what that meant for me was living a wholehearted life of love. And doors began opening everywhere. HR offered me to take a 6-month sabbatical, and then I met Thad. And 3 weeks after Thad and I met, we fell in love. And when I had to move from Atlanta, because I couldn't afford to live in my apartment anymore on my sabbatical, he offered to move my stuff into his place in Charlotte, and we could figure it out when I got back from Tanzania. And while I was in Tanzania, Thad came out, and he proposed at our school, and brought ring pops for all of our kids. And for the first time in my life, my heart was whole. And I was happy. And I realized in that moment that home isn't where we're from, but it's living a life full of love. And happiness in your identity is not contingent on where you are, but who you're choosing to be in every moment of your life. A year ago, I left my job, and I now run Glorious full-time. And we've partnered with another organization, and together we work with communities around the world. And we do this together because I believe that together we work better. And I believe that about humanity in general. We're better when we work together, when we can push past those things that divide us, and we can really work together on what unites us. One of my favorite quotes comes from the book Shantaram. My culture had taught me all the wrong things well, but the soul has no culture, no nations, no color, no accent, nor way of life. The soul is forever. The soul is one. And so I leave you with this question. Where are you from? Where are we all from? And how do we begin to treat one another, love one another, if we truly believe that we came from the same place? I believe we could change the world.